What if the idea that one day everything will be in place is just an illusion? How many times has the promise of a perfectly resolved life been used as fuel for decisions, dreams, and even anguish? The belief that at some point all doubts will disappear and stability will take over may seem comforting, but it hides a problem. That day never comes. From an early age, there is a narrative that suggests that happiness and security lie in the next step. School leads to college, which leads to employment, which leads to financial stability, which leads to personal fulfillment. But along the way, something always seems to be missing. Even when you achieve what once seemed essential, a new concern, a new goal, a new challenge arises. The comparison only intensifies this feeling. On social media, there are examples of lives that appear to have been resolved on all sides. People who seem to have found the perfect career, the ideal relationship, the flawless routine, and inevitably the question arises, what am I doing wrong? The problem is that this search for absolute certainties never ends. Life is not an exact equation where all the variables fit together perfectly. The more you pursue complete stability, the greater the frustration. But there is another way to look at all of this, a perspective that can ease this constant pressure. The need to have everything resolved does not come out of nowhere. From a young age, we are taught that life follows a logical path, almost like a straight line. Choose a stable profession, find a lasting relationship, build a secure life, and at some point, the feeling of fulfillment will come. But reality rarely fits this script. This search for certainties has deep roots. Society values security and predictability. Choices that deviate from expectations often create discomfort, both for those who make them and for those observing from the outside. There is a collective fear of the unknown, as if any step outside of the plan would be a mistake. This creates constant anxiety, a feeling that if something is not resolved yet, then life is incomplete. The idea of total stability becomes an unattainable goal. There is always a new concern. First, it is about passing school, then about which college to choose, later about getting a good job, maintaining a stable relationship, having a balanced life. And even when these goals are achieved, the mind finds new reasons for restlessness. Social media amplifies this feeling. We see people who are apparently sure of their choices, living organized routines, achieving what they want without apparent difficulties. But what you don't see are the moments of doubt, the mistakes, the unexpected twists and turns. This silent comparison makes it seem like uncertainty is an individual problem, when in fact, it is an inevitable part of everyone's life. The big problem with this mentality is that it generates endless frustration. Anyone who believes that peace will only come when everything is resolved lives in a state of constant waiting. Happiness becomes a future promise, always conditioned on the next goal. But the truth is that there is no endpoint, no moment when all the pieces of the puzzle fit together perfectly. The good news is that there is a different way to look at this reality. Uncertainty, instead of being an enemy, can become an ally. Accepting it does not mean giving up on dreams, but stopping fighting against a natural aspect of existence. What seems unstable today may actually be the opportunity for something greater. If total stability is an illusion, then what is the alternative? The answer may seem uncomfortable at first, but it is also liberating. Accepting that uncertainty is part of life. The idea that everything needs to be under control is an unnecessary burden. The future is never guaranteed, and trying to predict every detail only creates anxiety. Instead of fighting this reality, it is possible to adopt a new perspective. Life is not a mathematical problem that needs an exact solution, but rather a continuous flow where each experience brings learning and growth. Stoic philosophers have been talking about this for centuries. For them, the key to a more relaxed life was accepting what cannot be controlled. Instead of wasting energy trying to eliminate uncertainty, it is wiser to learn to live with it. This does not mean conforming or giving up on dreams, but rather understanding that there will not always be ready-made answers, and that this is okay. In psychology, there is a similar concept. Tolerance of uncertainty is an important factor for emotional well-being. People who accept the unpredictable tend to deal better with challenges and changes. This is because they do not waste time trying to avoid the inevitable, but rather adapt as life unfolds. Perhaps the best way to visualize this is with a simple metaphor. Imagine that life is a book being written in real time. Each page brings something new, and no one has access to the final chapter. Some people spend so much time trying to predict the outcome that they forget to enjoy the story as it unfolds. But what if, instead of seeking guarantees, it was possible to simply move forward page by page? Accepting uncertainty does not mean abandoning plans or living without direction. On the contrary, it means moving forward with more ease, knowing that not everything needs to be resolved for life to make sense. After all, some of the best experiences happen precisely when certainties give way to the unexpected. Accepting uncertainty does not mean simply folding your arms and letting life happen without any control. On the contrary, it is about finding ways to better deal with the unknown without letting it paralyze you or generate unnecessary suffering. There are some practical strategies that help in this process. Mindfulness and focus on the present. Much of the anxiety regarding uncertainty comes from trying to predict or control the future. But the future, by definition, does not yet exist. What does exist is the now. Practicing full attention or mindfulness is an effective way to bring the mind to the present, reducing the weight of future worries. This does not mean ignoring responsibilities or failing to plan, but rather avoiding anticipated suffering. Simple exercises such as breathing deeply, observing your surroundings, or dedicating a few minutes a day to being fully present in an activity help to create this awareness. Small moments of mindfulness can make a big difference in how you deal with uncertainty. 2. Mental reframing, seeing uncertainty as an opportunity. Not all uncertainty is a threat. Often, what seems like a problem can be a door to new possibilities. How many times has something that seemed like a failure ended up leading to a better path? A classic example of this are stories of people who lost their jobs and, in their initial despair, felt that everything was falling apart. However, this forced change ended up leading to new opportunities, whether it was their own business, a new career path, or a lifestyle more aligned with what they really wanted. Reframing uncertainty means changing the way you see the unknown. Instead of seeing the lack of answers as a problem, you can interpret it as an open space for new experiences. This does not mean ignoring real difficulties, but rather avoiding the tendency to always assume the worst. Intentional action, making decisions without expecting absolute guarantees. Many people put off important decisions because they wait for a perfect moment that may never come. Whether it's starting a new project, moving to a new city, or even starting a relationship, the search for absolute certainty can become an obstacle. The truth is that, in many cases, clarity only comes after action. Starting something, even without having all the answers, allows for adjustments along the way. Perfection is an elusive goal, and trying to eliminate any risk before acting can result in stagnation. A good exercise for this is to ask, what can be done today with the information and resources available? Not everything needs to be solved at once. Small steps generate learning and help build confidence, making uncertainty less scary. Ultimately, dealing well with the unknown does not mean never feeling fear or doubt. It means learning to move forward, even without all the guarantees, trusting that each step brings new learning. Life will never be a completely predictable path, but that unpredictability can also be what makes it so interesting. The idea that one day everything will be resolved is tempting, but deep down, this expectation only leads to frustration. Life does not follow a predictable script, and waiting for the moment when all doubts will disappear is like chasing the horizon. The further you walk, the further away it gets. Uncertainty can seem scary, but it also carries something valuable: possibility. When you stop fighting the unpredictable, You open up space to live more lightly. Accepting that not everything needs to be defined right now does not mean giving up on your dreams, but rather allowing them to evolve over time. What once seemed like a problem can be an opportunity. What seemed like a closed path can lead to something unexpected and better. How many of life's most memorable experiences have arisen from moments of uncertainty? Maybe a new job, a great friendship, an unforgettable trip. Almost always, the most significant moments begin without all the answers. If there is one thing to take away from this journey of reflection, it is the idea that you don't need to have everything resolved to move forward. Small steps are enough. No one needs a perfect plan to get started. Life doesn't wait for certainties, and some of the best things happen in the midst of chaos. Now, a question. What in your life today can you accept without needing all the answers? What can be lived now without waiting for the perfect moment? The answer to these questions can change the way you see the present. And perhaps this is the first step towards a lighter life.